I got good news for you. I got my first muscle up after it seemed impossible, and I'm going to break down for you how I did that. Now, if you're like me, you've been training for years. You can do dips, you can do pull-ups, and you go to try your first muscle up and go, this is not for me. So I realized my natural abilities are not going to get me there. I need to use my teacher brain, which is my real talent, and break this task down, the muscle up, and then attack those specific skills, the pull, the transition, and the push, to scaffold my way up to achieve the goal. Here we go. Wait, before we go, if you like the way I break this down and deliver it as a teacher, please check out my actual teaching page, Mr. B's Brain, geared towards students, and share it with any kids, parents, teachers you know. So starting with the pull, the number one thing I realized after I hurt myself the first few times I tried doing this is the way I was training for normal pull days, I can't do this here. You know, keeping constant tension, doing a good range of motion, chin, to having a little bend in the arm. No, as you see, when I have to use the swing, I'm starting to pull from back here, fully lengthened, fully extended. My shoulder was not used to that. So what I recommend is whatever pulling you're doing, you need to go from a fully lengthened, fully extended, almost awkward position and get those lats and all your back muscles and your rear delts ready for such a technique. So I'm going to start with explosive pulls, again, from a dead hang, as far stretch as I can. And I noticed for progress, by the time I could finally look in that mirror and it looked like that bar was even with the YouTube logo, that's where I got right before I hit the muscle up. With the weighted pulls at 45 pounds, again, dead hang and get it to the chin. That's my measuring stick. Doing these inverted turnovers was crucial because it's mimicking that same motion, just the other way around. Now in this exercise, which I call the lat prayers, I don't know the official name, a lot of people you see in the gym are doing it like this. That's great, but again, that's not that full range of motion. You need to be prepared to explode from here. So that's why I do the full bent over version, and you are gonna feel it like you never did before if you haven't done it. It's gonna be activating all this stuff that you need for the muscle up. For my lat pull downs, I adjusted in two ways. One, instead of doing the typical lat pull down where you have a little crook, I'm going full extension again, but I'm also not pulling to my chin, which is typical. I'm getting ready to pull as far as I can to here because that's what I need to do to get to the transition portion. And it's almost mimicking that transition portion without the elbows popping. And then I'm going to switch to a close grip, and you'll see on the equipment, I can't get a full extension. So I'm going to hook myself underneath. And now, again, if you haven't done this with the close grip, you're going to feel a stretch and an activation like you never have before, all in preparation to have your muscles, ligaments, and tendons ready for that stimulus. I hurt my shoulder the first time I tried to muscle up, or in the early weeks, because you're doing a full explosion. If you're using the swing like I needed to, from here, you're just not going to be prepared for it. You train like this, you will be ready to go and strong in that range of motion. With the scap stabilizers, again, I'm doing that so everything's prepared, tight and right for that pull from the fully lengthened portion. I did do traditional rowing this way, like your high rows, your low rows, various grips. I don't know if that translates to the muscle up, but again, full stretch. Most of the literature and research is saying full stretch is going to be best for you anyway in terms of strength, hypertrophy, so you're not going to lose that way. And again, you're going to be ready to explode from any position, not just this kind of range, but from this kind of range. I do abs on pull day because the crunch machine I use is using that overhead pull movement. The rollouts are using that same stuff. And how I adjusted it is, instead of doing, again, starting here where you're not engaging anything, I stayed in that far stretch out motion and just little movements to mimic that initial pop after you're swinging out on the muscle up and pop. Now let's transition to transitions. I put my transition training on my push day. I stuck with a pull, push, leg split. I don't know if I'm right. You can weigh in down below if you're an anatomy and physiology expert, but that very dynamic demand of the transition is internal rotation, if I'm not mistaken. And that seemed to be aligned with a push day. Train it specifically. That's what I must shout to you. Train the transition specifically. If you're an old guy like me, or you're just not used to it, your elbows and your shoulders will not be prepared for the forces you're generating to go from this to this. I better do this at a lighter weight so I'm ready to do my full body weight once I get strong enough to get up there. I did not like the bands. The bands were clunky. It really wasn't working. Most of the band force is down below, so then when you got up here, you weren't really getting assisted anymore. I couldn't get the bands to work. Using the pull-up assist, as you can see, I'm really mimicking that, going from the pull into this. And for people who aren't going to be doing the fluid, like I'm levitating, people who are going to really be struggling through that, again, I don't know all the soft tissue involved, but it is going to stress you in a way you're not prepared for. So me getting up there and really holding it, stabilizing in place, because once I got to up here, I would fall back down the bar. Up to here, fall back down. How do I do that? I had to get used to it, and you can see in my, when I finally got it in the video, I get up to here and I'm there for a second before I do the push. So if you're like me, it's actually going to be 3 separate movements: the pull, the transition and hold, and then go to the push. And the way this jump dip evolved was, first I would jump and then dip, 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 dip. Well, I can dip. That's not the problem. So then it was jump, dip, up, boom, boom. I'm going real fast. And I realized, no, that's not the problem. In the actual event, it's the jump, hold it in place long enough, and then go. The jump and hold, dip, come back down, hold, jump and hold, stabilize, stabilize, dip, come back down, stabilize, stabilize, is going to get that soft tissue ready for that task. The only point I'm going to make on the actual push portion, and again, if you're banging out 10, 15, 20 bar dips, that's not the issue. My main issue was getting my shoulders and elbows accustomed to these weird, deep ranges of motion, which again is probably going to help me functionally. So it was a lot of, instead of doing my chest press to here, it was get it to here. Instead of doing my dips to here, it was get it to there. I got 2 things for you specific to using the swing, using the kip, using momentum. You've all seen the videos about the knees. I'm not going to tell about that in terms of exploding your knees up as you start to swing back. What I will say is less is more on the swing. I'm thinking, well, if I just swing out really far, I'm going to have so much momentum. And what it really does is if you swing out far this way, you're going to be swinging far back that way. And most of your force is going to be going out away from the bar. It's really about finding that minimal amount of swing to give you just enough of oomph to get you over the top. I mean, you can only compensate so much with the swing. And then the last thing is, on the actual days I went to the park to try the muscle up, I would use the lifting chalk. It just helps you. I don't know what percent it helps your grip, but it does help your grip and give your pull that little extra thing that you weren't used to in training to spin you up. And of course, that's going to give you a psychological advantage. So less is more on the swing. Use chalk the days you're attempting. And like many videos will tell you, really get used to coordinating it as you swing, coordinate that initial pull with the knee pop. And you'll get as high as you can. I only got to the park every few weeks, once a month, to see if I was ready for the muscle up. Didn't get it, back to the gym, more training, get stronger in all 3 areas, go back and try again. I'm here to give you hope because I'm 47 years old, lifetime natural, obviously don't look like I stepped out of a Marvel comic book like some of these guys, because no offense to them, but they're gifted, so their videos feel like Michael Jordan teaching you how to dunk by saying, just jump higher. This is the video for the rest of us who actually have to really break this down and attack it strategically to achieve the goal.